There's an imposter on the square.
And he's not the only one leading a double life.
So who exactly is Tom Cotton?
And does he have it in him to finish the plan?
I'm Alex.
I'm Rob.
And this is the Walford Weekly Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes that aired on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 20th to Friday the 24th of September. And I need him more than any other time because I'm literally going to die. Here's Rob. Hi Rob.
Falling to pieces. Hi Alex. Hello everybody. How are we this week? Are you alright? Alex, you're not well. The regaling of Alex's illness that I've had before we started. Bless him. Bless him. It's why you've had to change your headphones. You've got an ear infection, haven't you, Alex?
I have. I want sympathy and I want it laid thick. As I told Rob for the past before we start the show, we always have a little chat, and Rob was telling me about his very unwell dog. And I was
not
like...
dead dog, Alex. He's not a dead dog yet.
I know he's not.
Alex, you just killed my dog. Alex has just killed my dog. Can you imagine?
A bigger plot twist than one of EastEnders.
Yeah. Tell the listeners how ill you are, and then I'll tell the listeners how ill my dog is, and then we'll see who elicits more sympathy. We'll do a poll.
Okay, well, I didn't realise it was a competition. Basically, I have an ear infection in both ears, which was suspected to be COVID, but it wasn't, so that's good. So that kind of makes it a bit better. But as I said to Rob, as I put the antibiotics as well, they don't just give them away anymore, and I've got to have them. See, that shows the severity of my illness. Which I have to pop into my ears, and they go down my nose and down my throat tract, and it's disgusting. And all I can taste is infection and wax. So that's how ill I am. How ill is your dog then, Rob?
Well, I sent Alex a photo of my dog currently, which if he's very kind, he'll throw in a photo just here. This is my dog at the moment. He gets like little heat spots, and he's scratched at them, and basically, not to be too graphic, but he's opened one up and he's infected it. So now he's got to wear this cone. And have you ever seen in this picture two expressions? One is, Daddy, why are you doing this to me? I'm so sad. What's going on here? And the other one is, if you show this picture to anybody, I will rip your throat out while you sleep. So at the minute, my dog is currently hiding behind the sofa downstairs, feeling very sorry for himself, wondering why the world hates him. It breaks my heart, honestly. I don't have kids. I have a dog. And frankly, if this is what having kids feels like, I'm never having children. My mum is going to be without grandkids for the rest of her life, and she can deal with that because this is breaking my heart.
Am I not breaking your heart, Rob?
So many ways. But I'd like to remind you, I co-hosted this podcast with COVID. So, we are known as two people that from rain or shine, we will be here for you and giving you your EastEnders Weekly podcast. And it's been quite the week, hasn't it, Alex?
It certainly has. It definitely has. There's lots and lots to talk about. There's many, many stories. It's all been going on and on the square, and we might as well just get going, shan't we? But let's talk about Linda and Mick then, because obviously the secret has got so big now, and Rainie has made such a big deal of it, handing out flyers with a picture of a baby saying, "Who's the daddy?" Max Branning is!
To go ginger baby,
Yeah, ginger baby. As we said last week, it was quite a big clue anyway that the hair of Annie was red, and that she named her child after a character that predominantly is played by a redhead girl.
A redhead,
yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I think Rainie had a lot to base her interests on with this one. I don't know what Rainie's plan really was with this, because Rainie seemed to think that if it got to the right people, that they would then pass on the information to Max. But I don't know how many people Rainie thought was friends with Max. Max famously being quite aloof, kind of loner, kind of kept his company to himself on the square. So I don't know really who Rainie thought was going to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh my goodness, I better go tell Max.
I must ring Max.
And if Rainie knew people like that, then why didn't she go to those people just directly without having this mad plan of like handing out flyers to everyone?
God knows. Max, who famously left the square because he had nobody that wanted to spend any time with him, so that's why he left. It all started getting it all started getting a bit petty this week, didn't it, between Rainie and the Carters? Because Rainie was putting all these ridiculous posters up, and then Mick was like, yeah, well, she takes smack, so you can't trust anything that she says. And, like, literally went to the tailors and said, Rainie's using again, that's what's happening, you can't trust anything she says, so anything she says, don't listen, she's mad, she's on drugs, you can't listen to a word she said. And then Linda, being the only sensible one in the entire family, or out of any of them, said, "Do you know what? Maybe I should just go. Let's just leave for a bit, and then if Max comes, we won't be here, so it'll be fine." So the Carters have now gone. Linda's now Kelly Wright's now off on a maternity leave, so we won't be seeing Linda for quite a while. Mick, I'm sure, will return at some point in the near future, but he did, like, I thought, like one of those sort of looks over his shoulder, kind of surveyed the Vic as, you know, with the look of a man that isn't maybe going to be back for a little while. So it
was almost like a Linda's theme, you could say. Not a Linda's theme, though.
Yeah.
You know, the way that he kind of left, you always expected like an arousal of EastEnders theme to come in and like him and then go straight to the credits. It was a low spot for Mick this week. Do you not think it was a real low spot for Mick? So do something like that, something so dirty. And I don't think, say what you will about Rainie, she wasn't really playing a dirty trick there. She was just kind of opening up an avenue for her to get her baby Abby back. And what Mick did, I thought, was really mean, because it wasn't just Rainie's life he was ruining by doing it. It was essentially Bernie's life as well. He was. I don't know if Mitch was in on the secret either. I got the impression that Mitch didn't know either. So that friendship between Mick and Mitch was also destroyed there. So I thought was that out of a character for Mick to do?
I don't know if it was out of character. I think it was just desperation and sort of rubbishness, wasn't it? It's kind of, to be honest, I don't think it was. I think it was just, you know, they wanted to give Mick one last little bit of duff drama before they sent him off literally the next episode. And I think anybody who was paying attention to Rainie the past week knows that girl is trying. She quit smoking this week. She went from a cigarette to a vape within the space of a week. She is trying, all right, didn't she? Rainie was like, we saw Rainie, I think it might have been the end of last week, with fag hanging out her mouth and glaring at everybody like. And then by all this week, she was sucking on a vape, which fair play, Rainie, fair play. So, you know, she's trying. Yeah, the basic thing of it is now that the Carters have gone. Shirley's now in charge, which, if the place is still standing by the time Mick returns, is going to be a different matter altogether. And Rainie and Stuart, because Stuart's rivalry with Mick sort of reared its head a little bit this week as well, didn't he? Because Stuart walked into the Vic and was sort of at the start being quite reasonable. Fairly reasonable. It's just like, can we sort this out? Can you stop? Can you tell people that you're lying, please? Thank you. And Mick was like, all right, fair enough. As if Mick had that exact same conversation with himself since we last saw him. Like, that was really out of character for me. I shouldn't do that. That was really, really appalling. I behaved badly. And then Stuart sort of went away, stopped, and was like, actually, you know what? If you do anything like this again, I will kill you. So. Psycho Stuart is never gone, I think was the message from the story this week, wasn't it? He can flip at any time. And
absolutely. And Linda was watching from just from around the corner as well, and listening to the whole conversation as well. And Linda still is uneasy around Stuart. So to hear Stuart kind of give that threat. Yeah, it must have been quite frightening, and I think that was what caused Linda to kind of, as you say, have that light bulb, sensible moment. What we all kind of really wished had happened in the first place, and that was, let's go visit my mum in Margate. Pack bags, off we went.
Elaine.
It was a much better way of doing things. And I mean, we also saw this week that Nancy and Frankie still have that kind of very tepid relationship. Like, Nancy is slightly softening a little bit to her, but still hasn't forgiven her entirely for what she's done with her relationship with Mick.
Yeah, they haven't really touched on that story ever since the reveal came out, have they? We've sort of just been led to believe that Frankie and Nancy, Nancy more than Frankie. Nancy's basically just tolerating Frankie at the moment. But I would have liked to have we haven't really had that moment of the pair of them talking to each other after the reveal, which is a shame. It's more been about, like, right, we'll get Zack and Nancy done with so that he can now start playing with Janine when she returns. And the Frankie and Nancy thing has sort of fizzled away into sort of, we know they're annoyed with each. Well, we know Frankie's trying her best and keeps trying to smile at Nancy, and Nancy throwing daggers at her at all times. So I would like to see that moment between them where they sort of talk and Frankie has a chance to actually speak to Nancy and tell her how it was and what happened. So we'll see if we get that. We might do now that the Mick and Linda thing has gone away. So it's just going to be focused now on Shirley, Frankie and Nancy are the only ones living at the Vic now, isn't it? So we'll see if there's any. And yes. Ollie, did they take Ollie with them? Where's Ollie? Did she take Ollie with them?
I wouldn't trust Shirley.
I didn't see them. No, neither would I. I didn't see Ollie with them. But hey, Ollie's around somewhere. Ollie might turn up in a few weeks, just sort of pottering around.
Yeah. I just got this idea of Mick and Linda returning with Shirley, and Ollie stood next to Shirley with like tattoos all down his arms, a cigarette out of his mouth, and a bottle full of whiskey.
Ollie's getting recast and aged by 10 years when he comes back.
All right, Nanny Shirley.
All right, now give us a fag, Nan. Yeah.
Give us a fag, Nan. Someone who's lost a lot this week as well is Martin, because after Ruby got arrested last week, Ruby has basically taken everything away from him. She's taken away all his furniture.
He owns.
I say his. Does he own it though? Because technically, obviously, Ruby must own it.
Does
so
she?
It kind of expands. Well, it kind of expands on the fact that we've been saying for a little while, which is that Martin kind of has just been kind of sponging off Ruby.
So I'm quite enjoying sort of the mental image of Ruby just sat in her cell with this web coming out of her, where she just basically destroys Martin's life just from within her cell. Like she hasn't got. She's. I think we were told that she's pleaded guilty this week, which we knew was going to happen. We were going to get all of these revelations off screen. But Ruby has now removed Martin from any sense of her life. They've started divorce proceedings. All furniture is out the house. Martin is literally sat in the house at the moment with the kids and a rabbit, and that's it. That is the sole occupant of the house from anything. And he's been fired from the club.
And his two kids. Yeah. And no electricity, no heating, no nothing.
Nothing.
He's just got a shell, like a cave, which he's living in. And presumably Ruby has got all of her furniture in her prison cell with her. She's kind of got it all around, all nicely decorated for her. She's just sat there, kind of filing her nails.
Like Madonna does when she does when she goes on tour. Madonna, when she goes on tour, she makes her dressing room look exactly like her living room at home, apparently. That's what she does. Whenever she goes anywhere in the world, her dressing room, her green room, that's what Ruby has done to her prison cell. She is Madonna in prison, and she's basically got her chaise longue, and she's chilling, and, she's fine. She's got the pictures on the wall. Marvellous.
She's fine. She
has
got an accomplice, though, helping her along, which is Dotty. So Dotty has been helping her get all this
is mad.
Sorted out. Yeah, I mean, she's putting a lot of responsibility on Dotty's shoulders, and Dotty feels like she's
busy.
capable of doing it. But yeah, she's a busy girl this week, because obviously there's another story to talk about a little bit later on. But so Dotty kind of wants to show. So Dotty kind of wants to show Ruby that she can look after the club by herself now. We talked about who was going to be taking over the club. It looks then like that Martin's going to have no responsibility whatsoever, and it's going to be all down to Dotty.
Yeah, Dotty owns the club now. Very odd. That's a hell of a promotion, isn't it? You've gone from basically dropping like dead rats through the Slater's letterbox to you just have the club. That's all right. Just own the club. It's fine. You can pay all the staff, sack in hirings, pay everything. Stocks, whatever you like. That's yours now, Dotty. Off you go. So Dotty is now sat there swinging in this chair like the bitchiest Alan Sugar that ever lived, and just and sacked Martin from the club, and he's basically just pulling the whole strings and sorting events out and everything. So the revenge this week was Martin and Zack. Because Zack, I think, gives the impression that I don't really care if Dotty attacks me. I'll find something else. It's fine. Yeah, I'll do this thing with you, Martin. Not a problem. I don't need this job. My sister Sharon will be fine. So Martin and Zack basically take a load of stock from the bar this week and go set it up in the park and just give random passers-by drinks. As you do, as you do, and I'm sure Martin felt better after doing it. It was very odd.
Well, a full worth of alcohol was stolen.
Wasn't mentioned for the rest of the week.
I know we we talk about the club. We talk about the club being quite small. We get it.
Yes.
There's a door that seemingly leads to a kind of a dance floor area. We think, we don't know. So the capacity is probably about 100, 150. They just seem to have like 2 or 3 vodka bottles, and they're just kind of topping up and giving it to small children or anyone who was asking for it in the middle of the park without a license.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's fine. Not a problem.
That really frustrated me because it just felt like a really cheap way of kind of like just stretching out the story and just kind of like just reminding us that Martin's in a bit of a situation. And this
I don't get quite what it achieved.
Kind of...
No,
but it didn't achieve anything for me.
So I'm trying to work out where Martin goes from here because he's presumably not going to just squat in Ruby's shell. With no heating and a rabbit for much longer. So where does he go from here? Is he going to move back in with the Slaters? I can't cope. It's like, oh no, that would be really heartbreaking. That's what exactly. It's going to be that because I did wonder why. I forgot where this rabbit came from. There was a minute where I was kind of like, why is there a rabbit? Is that supposed to be symbolic or something? I've forgotten about this rabbit.
It's in a cage.
So yeah,
that's Ruby.
Well, yeah, that's Ruby. Yeah, exactly. Ruby is the rabbit. Ruby is a rampant rabbit. So they've presumably got to go. They'll go back to Slaters, won't they? Because obviously the kids need somewhere to live. So I can imagine as soon as Stacey gets out of prison, she could be like, "Yeah, come back. Yeah, it's fine." So Lily and Arthur will be living back at the Slaters with her mum, presumably. Martin, I don't know. Stacey might say, "Well, I haven't really got room for you. Sorry." So you can go sleep on the streets. Go sleep in your van like you used to when you came back. First of all, remember Martin was homeless for a bit, except in his van, didn't he? So we'll see if he goes back to his van. So so it's not looking great for Martin at the moment, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Ruby has completely screwed him over. From within her cell. There's always webs just coming out of her cell, leading out of the cells through the streets of London and just...
Her venom.
Dealing with stuff.
Can you kind of blame Ruby in a way? Because let's be honest, it was getting
I would. Too right.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
You and your rabbit, do one.
Right, so we did allude to the story that Dotty's been a very, very busy young woman this week. She's had another bit of a shenanigan happening. So we learnt something this week about Terry. Obviously, I've been saying Terry for as long as I can remember to do so. I have had a few slips, but now I'm going to start calling him Tom because we found out this week that Terry is actually Tom Cotton. The uncle, is it the uncle of Dotty Cotton?
Uncle of
who Dotty found,
yes.
Who she found in a bedsit and is now using, a bit like how Ruby's using Dotty. Dotty's using Terry, Tom, Mr. Cotton, to try to get the money that Dot has left to Sonia to look after until Sonia feels confident enough to then give to Dotty. Because Dotty wants it right now and she doesn't want to wait until Sonia can believe her. Terry, I keep wanting to say Terry. I'm stuck in my head now. Tom wants to kind of wants to carry on building this relationship with Sonia because he feels like Sonia and him are... I think it's a bond that we may find out a bit later on that perhaps he may have lost a daughter maybe when he was younger, or maybe has a daughter, and so he's kind of clinging on to Sonia now, and he likes this relationship that he's grown with him and Sonia. That maybe he thought he was going to be able to grow with Dotty, but he's not being able to because Dotty's kept herself at an arm's length and also quite threatening toward him to carry on this ruse, this lie that he's started with Sonia. So yeah, first of all, the twist. I mean,
big old twist.
It was quite a decent little twist, actually.
Liked it, and completely out of nowhere as well. It's been a long time since we've had like one of those kind of twists at the end of an episode that we no indication that it was coming whatsoever. Really nice kind of complete left-wing sort of information that we weren't expecting. I liked that a lot. And actually, he as a person sort of makes a bit of sense, because if we're being led to believe that he is Dotty's uncle, that would mean that he was Nick's brother, and thereby Charlie Senior's son. Now, Charlie Senior was, when he was married to Dot, was coming and going, was a pretty useless husband, sort of was very unreliable, sort of she probably cheated on her.
Yeah.
Not within the realms of possibility at all that he had another child from some other woman or somewhere. So.
No, he was a bigamist. He had 3 wives, one of them being Dot's sister. So, it's not out of the realms of possibility whatsoever.
Perfectly
that he would have
feasible.
had a child outside somewhere else.
Yeah, perfectly doable. So fair play. I welcome all this. This feels good. I like this, and I also really like the fact that he's come in and he's come in with these and see now. I saw a few people when this twist was first revealed, and their minds went straight to one of his first episodes where he met Jack in the Vic. And they were saying, well, Jack recognised him as no, he didn't, because we looked back. And because that's the research we do for you guys, we looked back, and Jack didn't have a clue who this guy was until he was fed enough information for him to sort of feel like he then had to go, oh yeah, Rocky, yeah, Terry, I remember you, yeah. So there was no issues there whatsoever. This clearly, to be fair, has been planned from the start. So hats off, applause, well done, very nice twist. And I really like the fact that he seems to have come in and with this first intention, and now has kind of in a way fallen for Sonia in terms of the father and daughter role, and is now really reluctant to go through with this plan. So there is good in him. Unlike Dotty, who is just apparently become pure evil now, it's like super bitch. There is good in old Tomboy, isn't there? So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Tommy boy, I still haven't forgotten that little coughing fit he had a few months back. I don't know if that's still relevant. It was there for a reason. I'm sure it must have been there for a reason, because it was quite a random little thing that happened. So that's still there in our minds as well. So I don't think we should ever forget about that.
No, I wonder if that coughing fit was added as a kind of almost a get out of jail card. So if this story kind of doesn't quite
if it's failed,
that and so they aren't able to kind of, because I think you're right. I think they're trying to make Tom into a likable character. He's always a likable character, and I think they want to keep him as that. He's obviously gained an audience with the viewers. I think he's quite a popular, quite nice, liked character.
Yeah, Brian Connolly is great in this role.
And I wonder if they thought that perhaps in case once they revealed the twist, because I'm with you, I think this twist was always on the cards. I don't think this is like a
no, it isn't a sort of let's do this,
which we discussed.
No,
and I wondered if that was just a get out of jail, just in case card, that if something should then make the audience kind of turn against him, they were able to then have him kind of use that as a storyline to kind of get, because. I think it was such a small thing that I think if they were to forget it, I don't think it would be particularly that bad.
No, it could feasibly be forgotten about, but the way that it was put in leads me to think that it's going to go in a sort of direction of eventually it's going to be that he is going to be the one to tell Sonia exactly what's going on. And Sonia will look at him and go, "Oh, you may not be my real father, but you've become a father figure to me." And then he'll die in her arms, horribly, coughing
That's
up
true,
blood.
Because Sonia can't be happy.
No. So I personally, that's my prediction for the main sort of trajectory this story is going in. That's my prediction. But we'll see. But I tell you what, I like it. Now let's address a few things that we've also thought about it. There is the question of, how has he managed to be in the square this long without the likes of, Carol or someone on social media seeing that's not your dad, Sonia, love. There is that thought process behind it. The way you're nodding, I suspect that you are you're sort of on that boat as well, yeah.
It seems to be quite a big plot hole that you would think that Sonia, we know who would. It's likely she would be on social media something, at the very least Facebook, because everyone seems to put their news up on Facebook, and it seems a bit odd that there wouldn't have been at least one photo of her kind of taking a selfie. The only thing I can think of, again, we're kind of having to fill in the gaps ourselves by doing this, is that the whole time Sonia kind of brings out a camera, and they could have shown this on screen maybe, but then the suspicion would have been too quick for the viewer to see it. But maybe every time Sonia brings out a camera or a camera phone out, Tom would be like, oh, no, I don't want to take photos. I don't like it when you take photos.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And would then deliberately not have a photo taken. Could have
worked.
Him. So
could have worked.
It would have made it. It would have being a way out.
Yeah. My other thought, my main thought of it is, I think Lindsay Colson, who used to play Carol, has made it fairly kind of clear in interviews that she's done advertising other stuff. You know, when when a soap actor leaves a show they've been in for ages and they always get asked, oh, any chance of you going back to that show? She's made it, I think, fairly clear that she has no intentions of returning to EastEnders. So my thought process is that your way around that then is either to recast Carol, which, blasphemy, or
no,
sort of do what they're doing at the minute and sort of just hope that we don't talk about it too much. And my thought process sort of is, well, you know, yeah, that is an issue, but does that mean that we just can't do the story then? Oh, Carol might have known about this, so let's not do it then. You know, let's not have Brian Connolly come in and play this role that we're all quite enjoying watching him. And let's not have this story where everyone's gone, oh, what a twist! Oh, shocking! You know, so I think you've in some way, yeah, I'm not saying the whole isn't there. For me, it's not that much of an issue, you know. And you also don't know what Sonia and Carol's relationship is like at the moment. They might not have been in that much contact recently. To be fair, Carol did go off motorbiking around the Himalayas or something like that, didn't she, the last time we saw her? So who knows where she is? She might be in a place where there's no internet. She might be meditating under a waterfall in Guam, for all we know. So, you know,
But what about Bianca? Because Bianca was meant to come back, but because of COVID, that kind of put
yeah.
stop to
Well, she still might.
Bianca
still
would
might.
technically, but then so if Bianca was to come back, that would surely be, because I would have thought Bianca would have met Terry at some point, wouldn't she? Or is that...
I've got to be honest. See, the thing is, I know my Stenders, obviously, but the Jackson Butcher family tree does sort of go over my head a little bit in places, so I kind of misunderstand where people were and who people are. I mean, you're probably right. I'm sure Bianca would be a slight issue for them if she came back. And I don't think, by the way, that the return of Bianca is completely impossible, because she's already come back once in this era, so there's no reason why she can't come back again. And you know, I get the feeling that there's been a little bit of unintentional news release this week, which might suggest that there is a little bit of butcher building going on at the minute, which is quite exciting. So, you know, I don't think the return of Bianca is unlikely. I don't think the return of maybe even Ricky is unlikely. So there's potential for, you know, an unexpected face to return and sort of like, what? No. So we'll kind of see what happens. But at the minute, I have to say, I'm really, really liking it.
I've said this before on the podcast. He's a pleasant surprise that we really did think going into it we were going to be like really disappointed. And no, he's really... Yeah, he's
so good.
Really
has he done acting in other stuff?
Cast.
Has he ever done proper full-on acting before? I don't know anything that he's been in before, but he's really, really, really good.
But you tend to find that comedians are just very good at acting, especially very serious roles, which is, I don't know, it must be just their skill, an unknown skill that they hide underneath. You know, they tend to be able to... Like Bradley Walsh, for instance, in Coronation Street. He was excellent in Coronation Street. That's when I used to watch it in that era. And, he was brilliant at it. I just think comedians are just very good at just playing a very serious role. And obviously because of, I suppose, where they kind of write comedy very quick on the cuff and they have to be able to learn jokes very quickly, learning a script in a very short amount of time is probably... comes easy to them as well. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying the story. I love that Sonia has something to do, because we've always been moaning that Sonia has nothing to do.
This is the other thing. If you derail this story too much with like, why is it on social media? Why is Carol not involved? Like all that sort of thing. You're also saying, oh well, like let's just take that story off Sonia then, and she can go back to being a boring little background character who occasionally stabs people in the throat with pens, and that could be her role.
I mean, I don't think people have been too vocal about the whole plot hole, you know, the social media thing. And I think it's such a tricky thing to do, social media on soaps, because no matter what you do, it's always going to feel wrong the way it's been done. And so I think it's, I mean, you know, if this is this parallel universe that EastEnders is kind of like based in, then I'm not too upset that like social media isn't such a powerful player than perhaps it is in our world, you know, the one we watch.
Yeah, it comes into play when it needs to, doesn't it?
Yeah, Yeah,
because to be fair, the people on TV aren't constantly in their phone all the time, are they? Like if this was a real place, like basically any of the characters would talk to each other because we're constantly doing this and just constantly updating their Facebook and like we all do, you know. So social media, I think, comes into play on soaps as and when it needs to. They don't ever seem, like you say, they don't ever seem to rely on it. Now, most of the time, it's not even called Facebook. They give it some other entertaining little name that we have to sort of fathom out why, what. Searchwisebook.com. So yeah, I'm very excited to sort of see where this goes from here. All praise to Brian Connolly. I like the fact that Dotty's got a bit more to do now as well. It's in a very antagonistic role. Because this is the other thing. Dotty has been playing the whole square for months now as well. Like Dotty has been, ever since she found out that Dot's money isn't going to her when she wanted it. You know, father's daughter much. She has been basically planning this whole thing with Tom and brought him in just so that she can get her hands on her money, and she is very keen on going the full hard, completely rinsing Sonia over and then just leaving the square presumably. So it's going to be interesting to see how far Dotty is prepared to go.
That's interesting, actually, because I've just linked together the Ruby wanting to impress Ruby story with perhaps her trying to get the money off Sonia/Dot, because maybe that's the whole point. Maybe she's trying to show Ruby that she could invest and then she would invest in the club, because it seems a bit weird now, come to think of it, that Ruby would be so desperate to kind of like prove herself to Ruby if she thinks that there's going to be money coming her way anyway. But then I suppose there's kind of like lots of ins and outs with this, because at the same time Dotty has shown frustration because the plan to get Dot's money from Sonia seem to be going very well. But then Tom then says, why don't we try to go into the nicey route? You'll still get the money, it's just to take a bit longer. And in the meantime, why don't you try to make friends up with Tiff? But then Tiff still doesn't want anything to do with her, which is fine, I get that.
No,
and so then that brings Dotty back to her frustration. So I wonder if like she wants the money quickly because then she sees an opportunity to maybe buy out Ruby and getting the club. And so it's actually going to be Dotty that ends up getting the club in the end. What if she's able to then get the money sponged out of Sonia through the investment scheme that's been created? Oh my goodness! See, there's so much to this story, and that's why I kind of don't mind forgetting the social media thing, because there's interesting layers that could actually be developed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it can have an impact much further down the line. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where this story goes. Yes, very good. Well done. Yes.
So I want to talk about Harvey, Bobby and Dana, but Kathy was involved this week as well. And I just quickly wanted to mention a kind of off-the-cuff comment, a one-off comment that Kathy made to Harvey while they were having their fish and chip date in the park, or in the square, I should say, where Kathy mentioned that the cologne that Harvey was smelling, was wearing, and Kathy could smell, was the same cologne that her brother Ted used to wear. Now, do you think this is a lead to bringing in the Hills? Do you think we're going to get the Hills back? Because Kathy has so little, again, they kind of just left Kathy nothing to do. And I know that, like, I just feel like this is a good way of kind of, like, hinting that Ted, maybe, you know, Sarah might come in as well. Tony, if he's interested.
Didn't pick up on. I've got to be honest, I have no idea who you're talking about. That's an era of EastEnders I know very little about, in all honesty. I knew she had a brother called Ted. That's about the limit. I knew she had a daughter called Donna. That's about all my knowledge of sort of Kathy's immediate, like, sort of family outside of the square. I mean, there's every possibility. I didn't pick up on it as a sort of just reminding you that these people exist. Don't think about it too much, but just remember that those people exist and move on. So it's possible, maybe, but then I also don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for her to sort of say, "Oh, my brother used to wear that cologne," and then that was just it. You know, just to throw in for people like you a mention of Ted, so you get all excited and think they remembered Ted, and then just sort of go on. You know, there could have been that. You know, yeah, exactly. Just get you all happy. So it could have just been that. I don't know. If they want to bring the Hills back in, fantastic, and then there can be a character in there that we really like, and we can call them King of the Hill. You know, perfect. But yeah, I didn't sense a huge amount of I didn't sense that it was coming, but who knows? Who knows?
I think it was maybe wishful thinking for Kathy to have a build up with some more of her family. That's all. Just because we don't seen Ian, and it doesn't look likely we're going to see Ian for a while, and so I just would like Kathy to have almost like another kind of authoritative figure, kind of ruling over the Bill house, and perhaps Ted, or maybe one of her nieces or nephews could be the one. But anyway, tell us more about them. The story between Bobby, Dana, and Harvey this week.
Well. So the petition for the mosque in the square that's going to be next to the Albert is still ongoing this week. The first time we've seen it in a while. First time, by the way, that we've seen Kioni for quite a long time. And she's gone through a spurt, hasn't she? She has grown all of a sudden. Honestly, she walked on screen, I was like, A, who the hell's that? And B, I was like, oh, that's Kioni. Oh, they recast Kioni as well. And then realised, no, that is the same actress, but she's grown by about 6 foot. She's huge now. As in, like, tall. So she's grown. That's how long it's been since we've seen Kioni, that she's been allowed to grow as a human being since the last time that we saw her. And anyway, the petition is ongoing this week. And we get another glimpse, I think, of the fact that Walford really is home to some utter lowlife, because we get quite a lot of Islamophobia flung at the guys this week. You know, you've got Bobby, Iqra, what's the name? Is it Wasim? Is that his name? The guy that Bobby's friend. That he's friends
young
with the
lad. Do you know what? I never picked up on that. I'm not sure.
I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think it was something like Wasim. I think is his name. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Someone tell us in the comments. And yeah, we get a bit of I'm probably homophobic as well, but an Islamophobic little thug this week, and gives Dana a beating. Now, because the whole thing is this week that Harvey. Interesting little thing with Harvey this week. Something that isn't really touched upon in soaps that much. This week they sort of glanced at the issue of microaggressions, which I thought was quite interesting this week. Where Harvey sort of was trying to come across nice and trying to sort of appeal to him, but then made some stupid joke about flying carpets. And everyone was like, you think I was funny, do you? And then he sort of hid away and felt all stupid. So I thought that was quite an interesting little look at them. It might be interesting to sort of... Because I'm wondering about Harvey at the minute. I'm wondering if he is... I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to be thinking of him as a sort of like a closeted racist, or whether he is just incredibly worried about his daughter being involved in a group of people that are visibly to him attacked quite often by stupid idiots like the one that attacked Dana this week. So I'm what do you think about Harvey at the moment? Where do you think they're going with his character?
I mean, there's such an incredibly sweet moment where Harvey was spoken to by Bobby, and Bobby said he would protect Dana, and he kind of stepped to one side until obviously they say Dana got attacked. And there was that moment outside the police station when Dana was giving evidence after her attack, and he started to cry, and he seemed genuinely scared and worried about losing Dana through an attack, through some kind of aggressive a moment. We don't know about his wife or Dana's mum still, do we? We don't really know what's happened to her.
No.
Whether she's just gone or died. And then, so I'm wondering if it's the latter. I wonder if she died in a really horrific incident. Something where she
possibly
was trying to protect someone. Maybe protecting him or protecting Dana or something. And now he's seeing it happening with Dana, because Dana seems to be protecting Bobby. And I wonder if he's... And I wonder if he's worried that what's happening with Dana is a repeat of his past, and that's what he's about. I think you're right. I don't think he's racist. I just don't think he knows the right thing to say. And to be fair, there's a lot of people out there, and that's why it's important to have the conversation. And it's also important that if someone does say something wrong, that then the person who feels like you've said something wrong talks to the person who says something wrong, rather than just aggressively attack them. And explains why.
Which is
it's wrong.
So what's wrong with the world at the moment, I think. That's the thing that's kind of wrong at the minute, isn't it? It's that both sides sort of attacking each other without actually having a conversation. And for that to be illustrated in a little old soap storyline is quite nice, to sort of look at. Why don't you two just have a conversation, and then you might understand each other's point of views and confusions and ignorances a little bit, and that can be and that should and could be applied to a whole wide range of issues these days, I think. So I think this is quite a nice little story to be playing out. I mean, yeah, like we say, his main problem at the minute, I think, is that he feels that. Well, he said it himself this week, and I think you've actually got it spot on there. I think my theory of Dana's mum being the woman that Isaac met in the when he was bin section might be out the window now, unfortunately. But I think that is probably smack bang on the nose. That's a really good, interesting thought, that his wife has maybe been attacked in some way for being part of a minority group somewhere along the line, and his attitude now is, right, well, as long as we all act the norm, then we're not exposed to that sort of. We're not targeting ourselves like that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, and if you start to pick apart this story, actually, there's quite a few little layers to it. I'm really interested to sort of see. Presumably, the story of this mum is going to come up at some point, and the Monroe family is going to start to grow a little bit in the coming months as well, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. It seems to be a bit of a slow burner at the minute. Nothing wrong with a slow burner. It makes a nice change to have stories not being flung at us a million miles per hour, and we're sort of grasping at different key points trying to catch them. So that's nice. I wasn't 1,000,000% sure where they were taking Harvey this week. It seemed for a moment he was going to be kind of like, oh, you're going to be. Are you going down a sort of right wing extremist view with this? Where are you going? But that's nice. And I'd be interested to sort of see that grow and sort of see him accept Bobby. And because I think the other thing with Harvey at the minute is that he does not understand why Bobby is a Muslim at all. He does not understand I think he's got a very particular image in his mind, as a lot of people do, what a Muslim looks like. And Bobby does not fit into that image. And as far as he sees, Bobby is unnecessarily putting himself forward as a target for attack, and thereby dragging Dana in with him. So that's why he's so sort of uncomfortable with the idea. So I think it's a really interesting look at an issue that is and it's not and it doesn't feel massively patronising either. Sometimes when a soap does an issue, it's sort of just like, yes, we get it, yes, we must, yes, thank you very much, yes. But this is very. I like the way that this is going. Actually, I think they're doing this quite well, because there was a lot of people who, when it was announced that Bobby was going to become a Muslim, we were kind of like, why, what, why? And it's been a really nice sort of journey. There's been a few points where we've kind of been like, have they forgotten about Bobby being a Muslim? I think they might have done. But now it's very much back in. It's very much back in the Bobby is a Muslim, and this is why he is a Muslim. And these are his friends, and Dana is now getting involved in all of that. And Harvey has to try and get used to that. And I think it's really nice. It's going to be a really nice journey to see where they go from here.
No, I agree. No. Everything you're saying is completely right. I love the Bobby, Dana, and Harvey story. I do. I love their story very much. In fact, I tweeted it this week. I said I'm desperately hoping there's not going to be a dark secret. I mean, I don't mind. There might be but maybe what I suggested as a story, but as I think that's genius. As a secret, it's fine, because that's what EastEnders is about. It's about secrets and people finding out, discovering things, and how you cope with it. And as you say, it's been done so subtly and so well that it's a family unit that I'm genuinely interested in seeing more of, and I want to see this story expand. I mean, I would happily just let it carry on. It's just as weird as it seems like a side project. It feels a shame that it's a bit of a side project.
I know what you mean. It will come up to the forefront.
I hope it does, because there's so many kind of like, all the big stories are always the ones that are kind of like the big pow stories. Yeah. And it would just be nice if this story, which is ever so subtly
it's very human story,
comes up. Exactly, which is what we're missing, I feel like, on the show. This human story that we want to. And the same applies for me with the Iqra and Mila and the Kioni story. I want to see this unit as well. I want to see this family come up, and we watch them. I'm interested to see how they're looking after Kioni, how this couple who have had this terrible incidents where they've now ended, they're adopting a child, having to care a child that's had this horrible thing happen to them, and I just want to see now how they move on from it. So I'm glad that they're kind of all together, and I kind of want them to kind of then bubble up to the top, the cream of the crop, as it were.
It's really interesting to sort of have Harvey in that role. You know, because like you said, there's been some things that have happened to that unit in the past few months. You know, the FGM story, and now sort of looking at Islamophobia. And I think actually it's really nice to sort of have Harvey there, almost in that sort of ignorant child role. Sort of whenever it needs to be going, why are you doing that? Why? What? Explain that to me. What? I don't understand. Why is this happening? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this to yourself? It's really nice to have somebody asking those questions, and for it to make sense for him to be in that role, and then to have people explain it to him. So, but you know, we learn the only way that people understand each other is if conversations are had, and whether that be people actually having conversations or listening to people having conversations, and that's how people learn about each other, and that's how ignorance goes away. So I am fully behind this story, and I want to see more. I want to really start building on it in the coming months. I'm sure it will go into some odd and wonderful places because it's a soap. But at the minute, this feels like such a human story, and I really, really like it. The other thing I wanted to say to you, I know that you're not a massive fan of Mitch as a character, but tell me that you didn't like Mitch this week, because I really, really enjoyed Mitch's role in that story. How did you not like Mitch this week? I really liked Mitch's role this week.
Because Mitch was
when he was
Mitch
listening to Bobby
Mitch all over again, kind of
no, it wasn't, though.
sitting there, handing out
disagree
advice
completely.
that he feels like his right. No,
I disagree
completely.
completely.
I cannot do Mitch. I'm sorry.
I really liked him looking at Bobby trying to give Harvey this spiel and getting what he was doing automatically and sort of going, give him a second, Harvey. I know where he's going with it. I liked that. I really liked Mitch this week. If he was more like that, then I don't think we'd have to have this conversation. If he was more that sort of understanding sort of bloke who kind of gets things rather than what he's been in the past, I think that side of Mitch would be nicer to take forward than what we end up with sometimes. But there you go.
Every man Mitch, kind of like. So he's kind of like able to stand back and see what other people. Okay, fine. Maybe. To be fair, I probably will always go into seeing a scene with Mitch with.
Just in the bin. He's just in the bin with you, isn't he? He's just in the bin. He's just in the bin with you. It's his role. He's decided.
It's just so difficult to like since from the beginning to this. But okay, fine. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say that Mitch was adequate. And
wasn't
from
hateful,
now on,
adequate.
I will watch it with. Yeah, I promise.
Okay.
Another family that kind of like family unit that's coming together is Lola, Lexi, and Isaac, because Isaac asked Lola and Lexi to move in with him. A couple of strands here. One is that Ben, again, possibly hypocritically, it doesn't like Isaac
possibly
his own path.
Possibly hypocritically.
Well,
let's talk about the fact that he turned around to Isaac and went, yeah, but he went out in the streets with like a broken bottle. Oh, as opposed to what, Ben? A picture frame, is it? Yeah, forgetting about your own past. You know, people are misunderstanding you. Yeah, you carry on, Ben. All right, shut up, Ben. Shut up, it annoys me. And Lola nailed it this week when she turned around to Ben and was like, oh right, so I suppose she'd be better off living with the gangsters, would she? Living with Phil Mitchell and you. Yeah, because you're really safe. You're a great example to all children that ever have crossed your path. Yes, sure, Ben. I like Lola these days. Lola has got balls these days and I really like her.
I agree with you. Lola's a far more competent and interesting character, and that she can stand on her own 2 feet. Although I do think Lola needs to be careful because, you know, if everything should go a bit awry with Isaac, she's going to come crawling back to Ben at some point. Being like, can I stay with you again, please?
Everything I said, I'm sorry and I didn't mean it. The man with the mental health problems told me to say it and I said it. I'm sorry.
It's always fault. Always fault.
Yeah, all his fault. The main thing with this story this week is more again Sheree and the way that she's trying.
Yes.
There's no other word for it. Manipulating the situation to get Isaac effectively out of Walford. Her plan now is to take Isaac out of Walford and Patrick, sell the B&B, and just as if that's got anything to do with her. Like, is she on any contracts? Is her name down on any deeds? Has she got a right to just inform this? I'd like to sell this building, please. Could I come to your house and say I'd like to sell that building, please? That's I'd like to
just turn up our house with an estate agent.
I'd like to sell this.
Sell this house.
I'd like to sell this building. It's not quite how life works, I don't think.
It's like Monopoly.
I'd like to sell that building.
A hotel.
I'd like that much money for it. Thank you very much. And now I'm off to Trinidad. Bye. I don't think that's quite how life works. So it's that was her plan basically this week. She wasn't bothered about putting Kim and Denise and Chelsea and the two little girls who we've never seen on the streets. Wasn't bothered. Couldn't give a toss. She was not interested. They were all going on out in the streets, and her, Patrick and Isaac were off to Trinidad to live, where nobody knew them, where she could pretend that Isaac's mental health problems didn't exist, and that was it. Well, what has happened to Sheree? I really miss fun-loving, get drunk in the wine bar, pretend like imply to Ted that her Patrick and her could have a threesome. I miss that Sheree a lot. Sheree is a very different character these days, unfortunately, and I don't think that I get the impression that we're not long with Sheree either. It sort of feels like an ending for Sheree is coming at some point, doesn't it? So because her and Patrick are officially over this week. Her and Patrick are done. That's how Friday's episode ended with Patrick. I liked Patrick's role this week, where he basically just said to Sheree, right, well, I'm not going to stand by and let you hurt our son like this, so your choice, love. Walked off, and Sheree's clearly made her mind up, and and everybody in the family is now basically assuming that Sheree is very ashamed of Isaac's mental health problems, has rang the school, lied, told lies, manipulated, and just been basically a bit of a bitch, basically, isn't she? So, and all for a supposed mother's love, which is very hard to sort of see from her side at the minute.
Difficult to justify what Sheree's been up to doing, other than to think that it is all mainly for Sheree's benefit. Maybe unknowingly she's doing it for her own benefit, but I think you're right. I think she's embarrassed by her son and upset that people are seeing this, this weakness, which it isn't a weakness, and that's what everyone was telling her this week. That's what Patrick told her. That's what Isaac was telling her. That's essentially what Lola was telling her. It's like, this isn't a weakness. This is just a cat. This is part of him. This is what Isaac is. And I loved, as you said, I loved Patrick this week when Isaac came back from job hunting, and he looked deflated, and you could tell he was very upset, and he looked very good in a suit, and
deflated but fit.
Straight away went over to him. Yeah. But Patrick straight away went over to him and said, like, this is just one chance, this is one opportunity, and it's no reason to get upset about it. It's happened. Let's just forget about it. Tomorrow's another day. And I thought it was such lovely advice. And I love the way that Patrick has just kind of he's going about it in the right way, in the right direction. And Sheree, I think, is just getting more and more frustrated that her son is getting further away from her because everyone else is getting closer and closer in. And she seems to be watching from the outside in a lot more. So like you said at the top, is what's happened to Sheree? Why we lost the Sheree we first were introduced to this? Because she could have been such a fun character, and it kind of bounced off Patrick really nicely.
No, that said, that's show business, and if Sheree's gone, I want Yolandi back. I'd love to have Yolandi back. And I've been watching a bit of. I said to Alex before we started recording, I started watching EastEnders 2008 recently, and discovered how much classic EastEnders there is there to watch. And Yolandi is in episodes I'm watching at the moment, and I forgot how much I loved her. So I'm sorry, but that role as Patrick's partner is clearly becoming open. Yeah. So bring her back, I say. But yeah, shame to see Sheree go, but we'll see what happens.
Huge shame. And one last thing that I want to talk about, and it's one scene essentially this week, but I just wanted to know where do you think this could head? Because we've been championing for a while. You've been championing Janine and Zack getting together. That's happened this week.
Anyone and Zack.
And we've both been championing Janine and Suki. What kind of battle they could have between each other. And this week, Janine was making quite off-colour comments about Honey, shouting incest across the square.
I would say that was my line of the week this week. If I'm being honest, that made me laugh a lot. Oh, look at them! It's practically incest. liked that. I mean, that's Janine all over, isn't it? That's the Janine we know and love. Just doesn't care what she says to people, what she does. It's just, I've been wanting a scene between Janine and Suki since Janine came back. I didn't get the impression that it was the start of anything this week. You know,
No.
I didn't get the sense that this was the start of a Janine-Suki rivalry, which I'm telling you, it's a missed opportunity if they don't go there, because the two actresses, I think, could bounce off each other incredibly well. What we did get a hint of this, and I completely support the Zack and Janine thing as well. I know I was championing Nancy and Zack, and I was really shipping them. Do you know what? I'm over it. That's fine. I'm as over it as Zack clearly is. So, you know, Janine and Zack, fine. Because I quite like the idea of Zack kind of getting in there with Janine and having to defend someone like Zack. That his sort of puppy dog eyes, sort of like, Janine's lovely. Why is everybody shouting at my girlfriend? Like, I quite like the idea of Zack in that sort of role and trying to defend Janine from the rest of the world. Yes. You know, but I think more interesting this week was a little hint that we got with the direction that the Honey and Suki storyline is going to go in. Because Suki's in defensive mode, isn't she? Suki is, obviously still feeling very, very, very put out by what happened a couple of weeks ago. The Suki thing. I hope there's been a better name that's been thought of by now. So Honey is sort of getting it with both barrels from Suki in the minute, like, you know, saying, I need you to do that stock take. You did it wrong. Get in there now, please, now. So yeah, Suki's kind of gone back to how she used to be with Honey, but I'm getting the impression that Honey isn't going to take it for much longer, because she's kind of looking at Suki and going, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing. I get your number. Yeah. So I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully that's the fact that they were both in it on Friday suggests that that's coming to the forefront again in the next few episodes. So yeah, so I'm interested to see where that goes. But there we go. Yes.
You saying about the Janine and Zack thing, sorry, you just reminded me of something I wanted to also bring up. Zack is the perfect kind of stereotype Janine boyfriend, if you think about it.
Isn't he? Yeah.
So he's a little bit softer, a little bit kind of like a bit cheeky, but kind of quite well liked around the square. You know, if you look at the past of Janine's boyfriends, they all tend to be the same kind of, apart from the blip here and there. Yeah, apart from Michael. In fact, yeah, only Michael. Yeah, that was quite a big blip.
I still would prefer, if I'm perfectly honest, Kierash and Janine, because just of the fact that would just inflame Suki, and they'd then have Suki versus Janine. I think that's such a wasted opportunity, because I actually think Janine and Kierash would suit each other quite well. I think Kierash could handle himself with Janine. You know, I think he could keep her on her toes. I think he'd quite enjoy her feistiness. You know, so I don't know, we'll see when I'm hired as a writer in a couple of years, that's what will happen. Just so you know. So spoiler alert for the next 3 years of EastEnders. So look forward to that.
Yes. Lovely. Well, we've talked about the week. I just want to talk about a couple of tweets that we got this week on our Twitter on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So this is the part of the show where we read out some of the messages that you have sent to us when you've got in touch with us on Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook group, or our email. All the details, as usual, are at the end of the show. However, a couple of tweets I wanted to discuss, because one kind of was very disappointed by the twist this week, and one was quite excited about the twist, and I just wondered if you could analyse it quickly over between them. So at Kim Connor 3 said, I was quite disappointed in the Rocky twist, as I like his character and want him to stay around. But how can he after such an elaborate lie? I feel like he needs to turn good to have longevity. Can he redeem himself somehow? And do you think he has a future on the square? And then at Dimitri Wright, also on Twitter, wrote, the Rocky plot twist was one of the best things to come this week. I've seen a lot of confusion about how he's a cotton, but I think we can safely assume that Charlie's second wife was Rocky's mother. So, I think generally
shelf life is the issue, isn't it?
Response. But that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think we did discuss it mildly just now when we said about it, about shelf life of the character.
I think that he has got... I think he could stay around. I think that there is a chance for him to be redeemable because he's already clearly regretting exactly where he is at in the situation, isn't he? I think that Dotty is the one that's really pushing this forward and wanting him to be basically as nasty as she's going to be about it, whereas he's gone, actually, I quite like Sonia, and I quite like the mates I've made around here, and it does also explain the thing that went on with Kathy, doesn't it? Because he didn't want her to get dragged into it. So there is a good person in there. He's not Nick Cotton through and through, exactly, is he? You know, Nick wouldn't have given a flying fig about, you know, who he was upset or the carnage would have caused, whereas this guy, fig. I think that, you know, Tom is it wants to sort of do this as sort of gently as he can and sort of like, yeah, I'm just going to take your money, thanks very much, bye. So I think that there is potential for him to stay around, but then I think that he's going to die at some point. I think that cough was there for a reason. It's not been said since, but I think it's been put in for a reason. I don't know. We'll see what direction it goes in, but yeah, I agree with the fact that it was a great twist, and I love it when soaps do a twist out of nowhere that you don't see coming. There's no signposting towards it whatsoever. You know, there's no spoilers about it, and it literally just sat there at the end of the episode with a duff dust going around your ears with your mouth wide open. There is no better feeling than when EastEnders does that right. So there you go. What are your thoughts?
And it lit up Twitter as well, which is basically, if there's going to be an argument out there that, you know, EastEnders isn't getting the pull that it used to, it doesn't matter so long as the social media is talking about it. Because if social media are talking about it, then people will come back to it and say, oh, hang on, did that happen? Which is why, and we argue this 100 times a day, if you want.
100 times, yeah.
Keep things secret. Keep things secret, because if you keep things secret, then it's a water cooler moment that people can talk about the next day. And I think that it's kind of, it's just as simple as that, I think. And, you know, with the whole reveal that there's argument for another cotton on the square.
Yes, and it's also an argument for the non-box setting approach, isn't it? You know, you've got sort of people talking about it so that people can be prepared to go in. Because I will tell you, the ratings are climbing. Slowly but surely, they are climbing a bit more. I've sort of been trying to be keeping an eye on them.
You little optimistic monkey.
I am. You know, the ratings are climbing ever so slightly. They're looking a bit healthier. And the other soaps really aren't that far ahead of them. I think a lot of attention gets put on EastEnders ratings because some people like to attack the BBC with any stick that they can, you know. So, you know, EastEnders finds itself in the limelight, whereas ITV has both soaps to sort of play with. If one sort of starts to sag a little bit, the other one can be thrust forward and put into the limelight, which is what Corrie's doing at the moment. Emmerdale is sort of doing its thing at the moment. So EastEnders is doing a little bit better recently. Hopefully long may it continue. But please, listeners and viewers, let us know what you thought about this week by any of the following methods. You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or on alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We are back same time next week. It's been a nice little episode. We've enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully you will join us next week. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. And good luck to all of the Strictly stars from last night, because you'll be listening to this the next night.
Good luck, guys. Bye. Get well soon, Alex. Bye.